Hi there. Today we are in the beautiful curated nest. So I'll give you guys a little tour afterwards. Tell me what it is you want to see. I'm going to come back to that. But what I'm doing today is because we are receiving an order. I'm going to turn this around. Hi, Alona. Because we're receiving an order today, I have to work from the studio. So I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but now that I'm here, I'm going to give you guys a cool little tour, and then we'll come back to this afterwards. So we have a lot of original art in store. Let me know if you're interested in seeing anything more. What else? We've got clothing, we've got candles, we've got diffusers, we've got art supplies. We've got our fun waxed cotton aprons. We've got jewelry. Ilona, you may recognize this lovely artist. We have Rochelle's jewelry. Yep. And of course we have vintage jewelry. We have Canadian made. Let's look at how sweet this is. So we have these little acorns. This is all Canadian made. We have silver, we have gold, we have different patinas. Look at this adorable little sailboat. So I am going to get to work today, but I thought while we're here, and I just closed up the store for to the public so that we could have some peace and quiet, thought I'd give you guys a little tour. So these are some little encaustic blocks that I make. Hi, Judy. Look at my little encaustic animals. Speaking of animals, so these are little encaustic animals. They're about the size of your hand, different ones. And then we also have, let me go over here so I can show you the concrete and encaustic animals. So these are encaustic animals, they're concrete animals that I made that are wearing little encaustic boots. So super cute. In the background, we have, hi Tessa. In the background we have little art pieces, original art pieces by, you'll recognize this artist, you may not recognize her work, but this is our very own from Open Studio, Pam Rideout Smith. So she makes these cute little pieces. These are some of my originals, just little ones in shop. Well, I give you guys the art tour. This is a piece I made for you guys a few weeks ago on Waxing Wednesday. So it's an encaustic redo of an old one. Hi, Terry. Terry is a fantastic supporter of the store, and I just want to say shout out to Terry. Thank you so much. She buys her original artwork here, and we really appreciate that. So this is these hearts. You just have to see how gorgeous these hearts are. So these hearts are actually made by my business partner, Judy Anderson. She's very bashful. She doesn't do any lives, but I just have to show you her work because they are so simple and so beautiful, and who couldn't gift or receive that? So it's all on our website at curatednest.com. If you see something there that you don't see in the shop, make sure that you, thank you Terry, make sure that you message me. Here's some more encaustic pieces made by yours truly. I have a red one over in another corner. So what else can I show you guys? So there's a print of my painting Thriving, and Thriving is a 5 foot by 5 foot mixed media and encaustic painting. Let me move these scarves out of your way so that you can actually see the painting. So hi Denise. So this is a 5 foot by 5 foot encaustic painting, mixed media and encaustic, that is behind the cash. Very soon we're going to be having art blocks come in this print. But for now we do have paper prints and canvas prints available. In fact, we just sold, so we have everything from, let me just show you, from the small one, which fits an 8 by 10 frame, to the larger one, which is a 12 by 12, but I've printed it on, or I've had it printed on 12 by 18 paper so that you can easily frame it and not have to go and buy a custom frame. So let me try and close this all up. So you guys will recognize my bird cage, chandeliers, Have all kinds of fun stuff in store. Not sure what else I can show you. I am going to get to some art today. Why don't we just do that? So this is all in-store art. So we have that. You see that chair? We have that in the original, and it's available online. And we also have prints available, as you can see, which are all museum grade prints that are signed by the artist. That one is by me as well. And I think, oh, I know the other one I wanted to show you. So we have one left. You guys were asking me about it last time, but I have one of the hubcaps left, and Terry would recognize this one because she bought the other one. So I have one hubcap left, which is an old hubcap from a, I don't know, from a truck or something like that, because it's quite big. Maybe it's from a car. Anyway, it's just got a fantastic patina of rust and chipped paint, and with the simple addition of the bird and the olive branch, it just makes it really simple, really nice piece of decor. But look at this. So because we love this piece so much, we had them turned into prints. So I had them photographed by a photographer who does museum grade prints and photography. This is a 12 by 18, and I tell you, you cannot tell the difference between the original and the print. So we have both of them available. They are online. So I have that one, and I have this one. So this one, like I said, we still have the original available of this particular hubcap, which is up here, but we do have prints of both available. And these will also be available soon in an art block. And the art block will be, well, we'll see that. We'll do that on another day. For now, why don't we make some art, kids? Wouldn't that be fun? So, okay, don't forget we have hand silk screen shirts, and that's all done by me. And then we also do patches for the people. I'm terrible at, so Patches for the People is a company that I started a while ago, and it's all using high-end basic clothing with the addition of recycled fabric patches. So that's all available on our website as well. So again, like I said, we have lots of original art in store. You can check it all out at www.curatednest.com and acuratednest.com. So, hi Margot. So yeah, check us out. But now, for now, why don't we head into looking at our Waxing Wednesday. So I'm going to turn the camera around, find a place to perch it, because I don't have a tripod here. I keep saying I'm going to get a tripod for here, and then I keep forgetting. So let me put that there for now. And I definitely need a tripod so that you guys can see down. So let me figure this one out. Should have thought of this before you all arrived. Okay. In a pinch, what makes a tripod? In a pinch, what makes a tripod? Talk amongst yourselves for a sec. Okay. I may just have to keep showing you what I'm doing, or work vertically. There we go. Yep, I guess for now what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm just going to hold this up as I talk and do. So not ideal, but if I get you out of focus, let me just see where we are. There we are. Then I should be able to keep holding this up and we can talk. Okay, so I'm just going to show you roughly what I'm doing. So this is, okay, this is a bad idea. I'm going to turn this around. Alright, so I'm just going to work one-handed. That'll be so much easier. Okay, so I have in pillow. So Tessa, you'd like to see another pillow, or you're just talking about pillows? Let me know. I could always go back. We'll do another tour afterwards, so just let me know which pillow you'd like to see. So for today in Waxing Wednesday, I just wanted to show you, so this is kind of in conjunction with yesterday's class, and then also with Waxing Wednesday, and I'm tying in our Friday workshop. Oh, I see, a pillow for a tripod. That's a good idea. Okay, let me go see if I can do that. Maybe I can do that. Anyway, so yesterday we did the Waxing Wednesday, and then today, I'm just going to put that there for now, and then Wednesday, or last Friday, we did the open studio, right? So in our open studio workshop, we did the backgrounds, and then I turned my background into this painting right here. And then I told you I would finish it on Waxing Wednesday. So combining all these different things, I'm showing you a super simple encaustic setup. So this painting has already been ready or made ready for encaustic. So for those of you who watched Friday's workshop, you'll remember how this one was made. For those of you just tuning in today, this is part of my Two Worlds Collide program, where I make mixed media backgrounds that are encaustic ready. So what that means is that the wax can actually adhere to the surface. So if it was completely a surface made of acrylic, it just wouldn't be very stable. So I've gone ahead and I've transitioned this using the Mod Podge Ultra Matte Spray, and it's dry now, so I'm just going to go ahead and do some encaustic on here. So for those of you just getting into the Two Worlds Collide method, or and if you're wondering what the heck that is, that's the stable combination of mixed media and encaustic, and it's based on a little on a workshop that I have taught repeatedly, and that workshop then gets has a little book that goes with it, and the little booklet was meant as an accompaniment to the class because there was just so much information that everybody said to me, oh, you should definitely do a booklet to go with it, because it was just too much information for a handout. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what's in here. So in here there is encaustic medium, and very soon we'll be stocking encaustic medium in store. But basically it's a mixture of beeswax and pharmaceutical grade beeswax, and this one in particular is with Damar resin. Damar resin is a tree sap, and the two things, once melted in this cute little crock pot, so in the little dipper crock pots, those are the ones meant to keep your dip warm. They actually don't cook anything, okay, so they just keep warm. It's very important that you don't use a crock pot that heats up for cooking, because that will actually cook your wax and you'll have a yellowy brown wax in no time. So this cycles through a temperature of about 100 degrees, so it just keeps it warm, and then it cools down, then it keeps it warm, but the wax doesn't actually melt in between, so this is ideal. It stays light in color. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush over with the wax, and you can see it's going on very, very foggy, I guess is a good way of putting it. So the fogginess is totally normal because the wax is coming out of the dish, or the encaustic medium is coming out of the dish at about 100 degrees. So it's liquid, and I'm applying it, and as I'm applying it to this pre-painted panel, this painting, this board, it's cooling. And as it's cooling, it's turning foggy, just like, you know, when you look at a white candle, the white is the density of the wax. It's not actually, you know, been colored white necessarily, it's the density. So if you were to melt that wax or that candle into a puddle, it would probably be clear. All right, so my first pass is very, very light, and all I'm doing is just applying a thin coat of wax. But you can see what I've done, right, is I've kind of changed the appearance because it's all white and foggy now, and you see all the brush strokes. So my first pass is going to be what I call a full fuse. So a full fuse is where I'm going to melt the wax so that it becomes a puddle again. And then I'm going to let that cool one more time. So I'm using a little torch because I'm in a creme brulee torch because I'm in the studio, or sorry, not in the studio, I'm in the store today, and I needed to be compact. So I'm just going to turn this on, and I'm going to do a full fuse by passing the torch over here. Now, if you are new to encaustic, I recommend that you don't use a creme brulee torch at the beginning. I recommend that you use an embossing gun. So an embossing gun is like a heat gun, but with less heat and less potential for burning yourself. And I don't recommend using a creme brulee torch at the beginning because overheating wax causes it to oxidize and turn yellow, so we lose the clarity, and it's a little more difficult to control using a torch at the beginning. So I'm just doing this, like I said, for expediency and for the ability to travel with it, because you don't need electricity obviously with a creme brulee torch. So I'm doing a second pass to make sure that I have a full fuse. So the full fuse is where I've taken it to a liquid, and you can see how foggy it gets when it cools. So what's actually happening, and I'm not going to get into a big science lesson with you, what I want to explain is that, so if you use the back of your hand, you can feel the wax. I can tell you, it's quite hot. So wax itself, or medium itself, goes through this process of when it's liquid, right? When it's liquid, it's clear. As it cools, it goes foggy. When it is cold, when it's room temperature or colder, it will go clear depending on the thickness. So I know I can repeat myself about 1,000 times and it still might not make sense, but if your wax is super thick, it's always going to look white, right? But because this is a really thin layer, you can see it's starting to go a little more transparent. We have the air conditioning on in here now, and it's starting to cool down. Once this is fully cooled, you can turn it like this for a second. Once it's fully cooled, it should be clear. And any area that's not clear, I can go back in and I can shave it down and I can remove some wax. But for the most part, I think I'm going to leave a lot of the wax. So like maybe over the face, once it fully cools, I'll be able to see what I want to do. But this painting has been created, like I said, using mixed media before. So there isn't a lot I need to do to this one, but there's maybe more I would like to do to this one. So for instance, this area, it's what I would call like my neutral area. Whereas like the wings and things like that of this angel, what I really like is I like that detail. So I don't think I'm going to cover this any more wax, because the more wax I put and the thicker the wax I put, the more I'm going to build up the texture, which is really nice. But at the same time, it's going to recess that into the background, right? So, and then like this tree, maybe I'd like to push that back a little bit. So I would just add a little thicker wax. And then that way I would be able to you know, recede the image a little bit by making it a little more in the distance. So you can see, and all the lovely texture and everything we got from doing this painting. I don't want to bury it under too much wax. So that being said, I'm just going to take a little more of the molten wax, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to build it up where I would like the wax built up. So now in building it up, I have a couple ways of applying the wax. I don't need to do a full fuse anymore. So the full fuse was the initial fuse of the wax, and that initial fuse was done to completely level and make the wax pretty molten, right? So because I did that, I have this very level, very sort of non-textured painting. But right now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a bit of texture, and I'm trying to create some depth and some richness within the wax itself. So I'm just going to build it up using a bit of a crosshatch pattern, and not worrying too much about, when I do fuse it, about creating a smooth surface anymore, because I do like the texture that I'm building. I'm not sure if you guys can see it on that one, but that's okay. You'll see it in a moment. So now I'm going to go with my creme brulee torch again, and I'm going to fuse it as much or as little as I want to. It is necessary though to actually fuse it. Again, it doesn't have to be a full fuse. It can be what they call making the wax sweat. So it's just until the wax has like a little bit of a sheen to it. I like to get rid of my brush strokes, which is pretty much it. After that, I don't mind the texture at all. I'm gonna put in a bit more over here. So I can carve in texture, I can write in texture, I can do whatever I want. The more I fuse it, the smoother it's going to be. So remembering now that where the wax is thicker, once it cools, it will clarify, but only to the degree of the thickness that is allowed to show through, right? Hi, Emmy. So Emmy will recognize all these techniques from, we had a camp last summer, and Emmy was one of my participants. And so this Two Worlds Collide is, there we go, sorry, this Two Worlds Collide program is, as I said, the stable combination of mixed media and encaustic medium and encaustic paints all together. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold this up for a minute. So the reason I'm going to hold it up is because this is on a cradle panel, right? So if I leave it down, I'm trapping the heat in, and it will cool a little slower than I had hoped. So because this is, you know, honestly like asking you guys to sit here and watch paint dry, I am waiting for wax to cool. So it's the exact same process. So, but you can see it's starting to clarify, and it's starting to do what I wanted it to do. So some areas are receded into the background. Like I said, I wanted that tree to be a little more subtle. And then I did that with some of the roots. Then I pushed that back a little bit. Then over here, I wanted to pay attention to, so you see how lumpy the wax is here? That's because I didn't do a full fuse. So I just rounded out, there, that's a better one. I just rounded out the surface and my brush strokes. And then that allows still the background to show through, as you can see in here, but it also allows those little pits. So those little pits that you see, I'm going to amplify those in a moment. You're going to love it, because those little pits are demonstrative of the fact that this is real beeswax. So synthetic waxes actually don't do this lovely little pitting, and that's just all of nature's like pollen and dust and all that stuff. It's actually just trying to escape the wax sort of confines that it's in. So when we fuse it, if you keep fusing, you'll get rid of them, but we actually like them because I'm going to do a patina here, and you're going to see the benefits of having that. Okay, so that's clarifying nicely. So now that I've got this at this point, I can also artificially add some more pitting if I wanted to. It's funny because a lot of people in my workshops, they're always like, oh, I just have to get rid of this pitting. And I'm like, no, you want the pitting, because that shows people that you're actually working with beeswax as opposed to synthetic waxes. Alright, so you can also do some lines, you can do some more pitting, you can do whatever you like, but I'm just going to bring in a bit more pitting because I want to be able to show you guys some interesting stuff. Then the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try and keep this level so that you guys can see it. I'm going to carve out a few of those roots and tree branches that I pushed into the background. And I'm going to do that for a little variation and a little variety in the overall appearance of this painting. So here goes. just a few roots. I'm going to carry it all the way up as far as I want up this tree. Now the one thing I'm going to be careful not to do is to isolate any one area. So I'm going to carry the roots right up to the top so that when I do the patina, which you'll see in a moment, these roots don't just, start and stop. I need them to actually have a bit of continuity. So they have to go from one spot to another. So I'm going to show you guys from the side, because you see all those little burrs from me carving into the wax. So I'm just did a tiny little carve of these roots in the wax. So now similarly, I'm going to do a few of the branches, but very lightly, because I like the fact that it's that they've been receded to the background a little bit, because not everything needs to be center stage in a painting, right? So when I'm working with paintings, I think it's really important that you have some things that are more prominent than others, and that you can sink other things into the background. So one little trick I am going to do here, so it's the wrong tool, but it's okay. I'm just going to shave a little bit of the wax out of this tree trunk. So normally I would use a pottery tool for this, but that's okay. I just want to bring back a little bit of that tree, and then maybe add a bit of like bark texture. Okay, so not a lot of carving in there, but a little bit. Now over here, I'm going to do some lines, and the lines are going to be important in a moment. They're not terribly important right now, but now I'm going to do my patina. So I'm going to remove any little burrs that have come up. I can't fuse them, because if I fuse them, meaning if I put heat on them, then that little bit of wax is going to melt and go back inside. So I just want to remove any burrs once it's cold. You just don't want to carve too deep with this. So now I'm going to work one-handedly, because I don't have my tripod. And Tessa gave me a great idea of using a pillow, but I'm actually not sure I have a pillow in this store that I'm willing to get wax all over anyway, or oil paint. There we go. Okay, so this is just an oil paint, right? And you can tell this is my favorite color because I have a giant can of it. But you can use any oil paint at all as a patina. You can also use oil bars, so pardon the herky-jerky movements there, guys. Okay, so you can also use oil bars. Oil bars, to be honest, the only ones I recommend would be the RNF ones. Sorry, I'm missing something here. Yeah, I would only recommend the RNF ones, because the other ones aren't as creamy and whatever. So I just tend to use oil paint because I find it the most accessible thing around. So there's a skin been formed on here because I haven't used it in a while, so that's okay. So I'm just going to go in here and remove a bit of the oil paint, and where I've carved in my lines and where we have all those little natural pitting, I'm going to apply some oil paint, and now I'm just applying vegetable oil. So the vegetable oil is going to turn this oil paint into a more I don't want to say liquid, because I don't want you to make a liquid out of it. We do need it as a very loose paste so that it can go into all the little pits. So you see how it's going into all the little pits and the lines. If I were to actually make it too liquid, then what would happen is the liquid would just wash it out of these little pittings, and it would actually do nothing, because we're going to remove all the surface paint in a moment after I get all this spread around, and any paint that's sitting on the surface and not in the little grooves where we intended it is actually going to ruin it. So ruin the effect of having done all these little pits. You'll see in a sec. Okay, so now it looks like I've totally destroyed my painting, and with good reason, because I've covered it in oil paint. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm just going to apply a little vegetable oil to the surface. I don't want to apply it to the painting because, again, I don't want to wash this out of the pits and the little grooves. So the first thing I'm going to do is, with that paper towel, I'm going to go through and I'm going to remove and to push the I'm going to push the color deeper into the grooves, and at the same time I'm kind of removing a bit of the surface wax. Sorry guys, that was very poor quality. I guess is what you expect from live, right? So tomorrow I'll try to remember my tripod, or the next time I come into the store and not work from the studio. Okay, so I got another paper towel here. So I need a clean paper towel because this one, as you can see, is covered in brown paint. So the more I keep smearing this around, the more I'm just going to keep smearing it around. So I'm going to show you up here, before I remove all this paint, you can see how some of my branches look like it kind of just ended. So remember what I was cautioning you about before, that everything should have a good start and a finish. So if you just don't finish your lines like I didn't, then it kind of just looks like you've kind of missed this area. And I'm just going to push a little oil paint into those grooves that I've just added. I'm going to have at least one or two stronger ones at the top. There we go. And again, I made it not go right off the edge, and it's really important that they go right off the edge. Okay, that's good. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to apply a bit of vegetable oil to a cloth, a clean section of the cloth. And I'm going to go back in again, and I'm just going to remove all the surface oil paint. Hi Sherry, this will be a good video for you to replay and watch later, as I know you've been asking me more about encaustic, so this is a good refresher for the medium only. So I've just added a bit more. I know you guys can't see because I'm doing all this herky-jerky movements, but what I'm trying to do is I've just removed or added a bit more vegetable oil, and now I'm going through and I'm cleaning off the surface. So any wax that was, or any oil paint that's sitting on the surface, is being removed, because I keep finding a clear spot on my blue shop towel, and I'm just keep removing it. So by removing it, we're not going to have any in the or on the surface, but yet only in the groove. So I'm going to show you this now up closely. You see all the little pitting? This is why it was important. So you can see here, it's a little harsh, but I'm gonna soften that a bit. These roots are also a bit harsh for me. I'll soften that. And then in here, not bad. These lines and the pitting, so that was the scratches I made, and then the pitting, most of it is natural. I did add a few, but you can see why they're important, right? So they do add to that overall look of encaustic wax on top, beeswax on top. So now I'm just going to remove everything from around my station, because now I have to fuse this again, and because I'm using a creme brulee torch, I don't want to catch anything on fire. But I have to fuse this because you have to fuse every single layer of encaustic. So I don't want to fuse this too much in one fell swoop. So if I do it too much in one fell swoop, what happens is I'm going to melt the wax, and it's going to run, or it's going to level, and then all my fine little lines, you can see up here where I overfused, they become fuzzy. So I'm just going to let that cool for a quick sec, And I'm taking just a regular old razor blade, and I'm going to shave this down a bit off the surface. And that's allowing me to control how deep the gouges are, and it's also allowing me to remove that fuzziness. Thank you, Terry. It'll be in store later this afternoon. Teasing, but it will be. All right, so down here I'm removing, and I'm removing because I don't want them to be as prominent. These roots are a bit too intense, because remember I said we don't always want everything to be center stage, right? So anywhere you find that your grooves are too much, or your scratches are too much, or something is distracting, the great part about encaustic is you just take a little blade and you can just shave it down a little bit, change the intensity. So like I said, where my roots were a bit well, thanks Terry, where my roots were a bit much, okay, and now this scratch along the side, I find it a bit too deliberate, so I'm just going to remove some of it. Okay. And then a few of these dots, maybe remove some of them. There's one arbitrary little scratch here I'm going to get rid of. Okay, so I think that's it for the patina and the scratching back, because now I've removed as little or as much as I want. So now I'm going to fuse one more time. And what that's going to do is any of my scratch marks are just going to be leveled a little bit. So I don't want to overfuse, I just want to do a light fuse. We'll let that fogginess take over. Okay, so now what, right? So so you could just leave it like this. I mean, you could just leave it with the clear wax. You could have just left it like a painting. But I want to show you a few more things that you can do. And at the same time, I don't want to, just do things for the sake of doing things. But last week, a few of you were unfamiliar with foils. So I thought I've introduced the world to foils now, which is kind of funny that some people don't know about foils. So a long time ago I discovered, so I was making t-shirts and I had bought all these heat transfer foils. So the way these foils work is with a heat tool or a heat press that goes through a die, a print, and it will set that print into a t-shirt. Or onto whatever else. So they come in lots of different colors. In the store I tend to have black and white and gold, but they do come in other colors, and I'm available. I can get them in any color you want. But the heat transfer foils work beautifully in encaustic. They also work beautifully, so there's black, there's white. They also work beautifully on mixed media paintings without the encaustic, as long as you have a heated tool. So what does that mean? So if I put this over top of an acrylic painting, and then I just like scratch or brush or whatever, nothing is going to happen. This foil color won't transfer into my painting. But if I use an iron or something on the background, it actually doesn't melt this foil, which is very interesting. It doesn't melt this foil, but will actually hit all the high spots and provide little bits and pieces everywhere that you want it to be. If you want it to be more deliberate, then you would use a stylus, like a heated stylus tool that we use for encaustic, and you could actually just write and stuff like that on top of your mixed media pieces. So that's what it means by heat transferable foil. Now, the lovely thing about encaustic is that because it's still warm, and I don't mean like, hot. We don't want hot, but this wax is still very, very, it's very warm still. It'll be warm as I keep working on it for the rest of the day, and then it won't be cold. So once the wax gets too cold, then it doesn't take the foil as easily. But while it's like this, I'll show you a few little things. Now I don't want to be too crazy with this, especially because I don't have a lot of white in this piece. But you know what, I'll do it in white and then I can always take it off. So I'm going to put that there. Now I am working one-handed here because I'm trying to be a tripod at the same time. So I'm going to grab a pencil. You don't want to use anything too sharp, okay? So like the end of this little shish kebab thing that I have is way too sharp. It will actually just cut my foil. So I'm just looking for like a pencil or a ballpoint pen. Here's a ballpoint pen. That will work beautifully. And I'm just going to try and hold this and show you how this works. So whatever I draw on here, on this foil, will transfer. Hi, Jules. Will transfer into the wax. So, like I said, you can still do this on mixed media. You don't need wax, but what you do need is this pen wouldn't work on a mixed media painting, on an acrylic painting. You would actually have to use a stylus, like a heated stylus, and that would then translate this onto your painting as well. So heat transfer foils only work with heat unless you're working on warm wax. So the warm wax and the pressure is enough to transfer the ink or the whatever this is on the back. I guess it must be like some kind of a loose ink that sits on the back of the foil. So again, I'll repeat that one more time. So if you're doing this on mixed media, you do need a heated stylus. And we will have those in stock as well soon. So message me if you're interested in that. But the heated stylus tool for mixed media is different from the heated stylus tool for encaustic. So they'll both do the same thing with the foils, but the one for encaustic actually has a channel in it that I don't have one here, but it'll actually pick up the wax and then you can draw with the wax. But the heat transfer stylus tool for mixed media just works with the foils. Okay, so you guys see that? So that transfer now has taken place because I have taken that ink off of this sheet. So if you look at the back, it's missing where that like the white part is missing, where I've actually scratched through, and it's transferred through onto here. So that's the white one, and then the black one, I should put something over here. So I'm actually just going to line that up. So you can see the little lines. I'll do the same on this side. So I could write something with this if I'm like into poetry or text or whatever. I can draw through a stencil. It doesn't have to be freehand like I'm doing right now. So you can see those little plus and minuses. They're like little charges. So there's positives and negatives. Clever, right? Ha ha ha. Okay, so then over here, I'm also going to sign the piece using my foil. Go. So again, if you're going to do this with mixed media, I feel like I should put something white over here, but I don't know what it should be. Maybe another little charge. This is challenging because I just feel, oh, maybe I'll just do a few little lines. There we go. I don't want it to be too like matchy, right? Like I've got white over there, white over here. Just a little balance. So I'll scratch some of this out so it's not as obvious. The other thing you can do is like lines across if you're trying to pull your eye through something. This piece is small enough that it actually doesn't require that. So you can see with today's piece, I'm going to put it over here so we can see it with the white maybe a little bit better. Let me tilt it down. There we go. So you can see with today's piece, the few little additions that are sitting on top of the wax actually really show that it is wax. So that's what I actually like about mixed media and encaustic. So the whole premise for me starting this program, this Two Worlds Collide program, was because I recognized that there was a need for being able to create a mixed media piece with the flexibility, the understanding of acrylic paints and things like that, right? Because if that's familiar to you, painting with water-soluble paints, then in order to transition it into an encaustic piece, we need to make sure that we have the piece that is actually ready for encaustic, because the acrylic paints and things like that will actually repel the wax itself. So there's lots of programs that I have available and coming available that will teach you more on that, and they'll be announced this weekend actually. But for now, I think I will sign off because I think I've wasted enough of your time. If anybody wants to see anything else in the store, I'm more than happy to do another little tour of the store. But this is this piece. So this is a 6x12. And I'll photograph it properly because I want to show you guys the before and after, because I did photograph it nicely before the additions of the encaustic, and then that way I'll be able to post the two together so you can see what the benefit of adding a little bit of encaustic to it is, and then a few embellishments after that. So I appreciate you guys watching, and yeah, so tomorrow is Thursday. I'm not sure that... Oh yeah, thanks Margot. Thanks Alona. So I don't think that Thursday I'm going to do too much other than talk about Friday's workshop. So I'll see you guys tomorrow briefly, and we'll just talk about what we're going to do on Friday, because I have a little amendment to our schedule for Friday. All right, so thanks everybody, and I appreciate you. All right, thanks guys. Mwah. Big kisses, and I will talk to you. Thank you, Carolyn, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.